Mic check, mic check. Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss current affairs and gazette for today, 21st of March 2022. Before we begin, a warm welcome to all of you here. Hi Amlan, Netra, Babani, Kim, Kriti, Ashish, all of the people writing here. Hima, Pooja, welcome to all of you. All right. And others joining in late. Welcome to all of you. Good evening. Let's begin this session. And before we begin, let me talk about a couple of things that you have written. So one question that you have written is on evolving the role of United Nations Security Council. We will discuss this in the editorial today, the evolving role and what is mandated, what is not. The second one is on disaster management, human, natural, accidental and intended disasters. There are innumerable ways in which you can envisage a disaster. It could be a purposeful intended disaster. For example, the bioweapons being used, that is a disaster in itself. COVID could be a human-made disaster. Even if it is not, it is a natural disaster. Those solutions could be a part of it. Natural disasters ranging from earthquake to landslides to flood and droughts and volcanoes, they all could be mentioned. Accidental disasters, intended. So this is how you should diversify the thoughts and start looking at technology which has come to aid of humans, right? So this is how you could expand a question like this. And the third one is a question on 5 ways to revive SAARC. All right, so look at SAARC membership, all the countries, and start looking at what are the pain points with these countries. Sri Lanka, what is the pain point? Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, and then start serving what India could do. 1 point with one country could be sufficient. Or you could look at themes, for example, economy, society, geography, right? And then you could elaborate on that. All of these are relevant questions, and some of the other parts are definitely being asked or they are a part of the current affairs today. That's why I asked you these questions. So the points that we talk of, they could be a part of the answer, but the whole answer is what you present. Right? So start looking at it from the holistic perspective. All right. So let's begin this. Before that, I've thought of one innovation, that is that while we come across the festivals or any events happening throughout the year, we'll discuss what they are. So in case I forget, it's your job to remind me that that particular discussion is pending. So let me ask you the question for a starter. What is the reason that we have been celebrating Holi? Why celebrate Holi? What is the significance of colors? Why put it on other person's cheeks or the whole body? What is the significance? If you know it, please type down here in the comment section. Hi Gopal, good evening to you. Gopal, we wanted you to write answers here. And all the other people offline, start writing some answers, right? That will be great move ahead. So answers here, answer for the celebration of Holi. All right. The reason that we have this Holika Dahan 1 day before the Holi, that is the day of full moon, the day of full moon in the month of, what is the month? Can you tell me the month, Hindi month? So the reason that we have a celebration here, that is Holika Dahan, is because there is a myth that, yes, this image is a complete depiction of what is the myth about. So this myth says that there was a king called as Hiranyakashipu and he had a son Prahlad. Right, this is written in old Puranas. This is written in Puranas, not Vedas but Puranas. Right, Vedas and Purana have some certain distinction. We'll speak about it some other time. So this is written in Puranas that there was a king called as Hiranyakashipu. He was very powerful and he was said to be the god of demons. And he said, "Don't pray anybody, just pray me." And his son Prahlad refused to agree to him. So his sister Holika, Hiranyakashipu's sister Holika, she somehow convinced Prahlad to sit on the pyre with her, and she had some blessing of some gods. If she could wear a veil around her, she would not burn in the fire. But what happened was eventually the truth won over the falsehood. So when there was a funeral, when there was a pyre and there was a sudden blow of wind, the veil, it shifted from her head to Prahlad's head, and that's how Holika got burnt and Prahlad got saved. Right? Later it is said that Vishnu, it is just a part of myth, but just sharing, Vishnu took birth, in the form of Varaha avatar, and then he later killed the king Hiranyakashipu, right? So this is the image here. But then the question still remains. So this is one day before the Holi celebration, right? Holika Dahan. But then the question still remains, why celebration of Holi? This is also a part of the culture of the country and some part of what is written in the books and scriptures. So the scriptures say this, that Krishna was not fair. Krishna was dark in color, and Radha was quite fair. And this is how he would feel despair. He would feel the sadness that Radha is such fair, why would she like me? And that's where Krishna's mom told him, why don't you go and put some color on her face, right? So if you put some color, no color is visible, neither yours nor hers. So this is how the tradition of playing Holi, it emerged. And why does Krishna does not look to be, or is not depicted to be a person with fair skin? It is because while they were small, they had they drank the milk of some I don't remember her name, and she had come to kill Krishna, right? Similar with Shiv, the color blue denotes they had taken in poison, right? So this is the reason why we celebrate Holi, right? That's how people started to celebrate Holi, pan country, pan world, not distinct, and this is completely integrated culture where people devoid of any being of any religion, they celebrate Holi. So this is the reason, right? So no distinction between people, and this is how they celebrate Holi. All right. So moving ahead to second update, a very interesting question was asked to me a couple of days back. Let me share this with you. Narsim. Oh yes, not Varha. Narsim Avatar. Right. Chaitra. Falgun is the month. All right. India is a country of diversity. Okay. Yes, it is not Chaitra. It is Falgun. Yes, welcoming spring season is another reason why there are a lot of myths around it, but the color, that is one of the things. Thank you, Preeti. All right. Putna, that is the lady who tried to kill Krishna. Anyhow, the second update is another interesting one. This is from the news of yesterday. Yesterday there was a news about CARA, Child Adoption Resource Authority, right? And the update is that if you look into this data, the data here very simply states that there were more adoptions of female children. The female adoptions are indicated through red color, and male adoptions through yellow color. In all the states, top adopting states, intra-country adoptions, that means inside the country, if people want to adopt, the adoption is more for female and lesser for males, right? And similar trends were noted for adoptions through inter-country. That means advanced countries adopting in Indian children, more adoptions for female. So a question was asked to me, what is the reason that we see more female adoptions in the country rather than male? On the other hand, there is a tendency for male child, a demand in country that sociologically the child born should be male. Isn't it true? That's true. But then why do we see more number of female adoptions? Now this is where I dug into some researches, some reports of CARA itself, and I found something really interesting here. That's why I want to share. This is very important, right? Inter-country adoption and intra-country adoption. See, the total number of adoptions that happened this year, in the last few years, this is how adoptions have happened. Let me show this to you through this particular graph. You see, the adoptions were 5,900, 600, 3,200. Adoptions have only decreased over time. And the adoption last year were 3,142 adoptions only, right? And this is adoption inside the country. This is inter-country adoption. That means adopted by nationals of some other country, right? So adoptions have decreased over time, especially in COVID times. If you see, the decrease is because of COVID, there have been issues in administration and management. But then there are some other interesting facts. For example, look at the headings. 36,000 couples in queue, but CARA has 2,000 kids only for adoption. This is not true. The total number of children held for adoption or who are devoid of their parents could run into lakhs. And the real figures has been 2.5 lakhs. It could be even more, but the real figure is around 2.5 lakhs. That is with the government authorities. But all of them are not sent for adoption. First of all, there are rulings of Supreme Court, and the government itself says that we will try to have ways in which these children are found and then registered with Juvenile Justice Act, JJ Act 2005. And when they are registered, there will be a tendency to look at who are the relatives of this particular child and then send them to them. This is one of the options. If these options, they are, they stand aside when we are not able to find their parents, this is where these children are registered with children homes. And only after that, only after medical examination and certain more examination, they are registered for adoption. They are free for adoption. This is how it is called as, right? So even if we have lakhs of children, only 2,000 children were reported so that they could be adopted, right? Now, out of these 2,000 children, another fact which is very interesting is that many of them would have been adopted, right? So when you see the number of males and females, all of them or many of them would have been adopted, but there is a specific preference for adoption. Gender specific preferences were not written in the report, nor in the Kara report, but two things were straight away written. One was that there is a preference for 0 to 2-year child adoption, and the second preference is the adoption of a child who is not disabled. These two preferences, who is not disabled and who is 0 to 2 years. Very natural. 0 to 2 means the child can easily adopt to sociological conditions of the prospect parents, and if they are not disabled, this is a preference which has been looked at by many. On the other hand, there are other groups of children who have been subjected to lesser adoption. They are siblings. See, there are cases. There was a case where I was working and I had seen this couple was a European couple, and they came here to adopt one child, but they went to Kara and they found out that there are 3 children from Chhattisgarh, Bastar region. Both their parents killed in some or the other violence, right? Left-wing extremism. So they wanted to adopt one kid, but they came here and they eventually adopted 3 kids. Now this is what they picked up, but usually everybody would not go for 3 or 4 child or 2 children adoption. Then people would not go for adoption in which children have grown, right? So if there's a 10-year-old child, they wouldn't adopt them. And if the children are disabled, they wouldn't adopt. Now, this is the reason that around 60% children, 60%, Kara report itself says 60% children met the criteria, the first 2 criteria, 0 to 2 age, and the second one was no disability. And here the adoption rate was very high. But the adoption rate was a little less in other cases where the children had disabilities or the children were higher in age. But then out of around 3,000 children, most of them were adopted. Point I'm making is, when most of them were adopted and there was no report on the number of children available in male and female categories, that naturally means more females were available for adoption. That means more females either lost their parents or they were subjected to adoption. As simple, right? So another dismal state of affairs is that there are more female children who are available for adoption. This is indicated yearly. Every year's trend, you would see the similar report, right? So I've taken out this for the year 2020-21. You see here, 2,000 females out of 3,500 total children were available. 2,000 were females and 1,400 were males. And similar, if you go to Kara's website and look at the findings, you would find similar data for inter-country or intra-country adoption and for preceding years also, right? This is last year's, and this 2,000 number that I have stated, this number that I have stated right now, 2,000 number, that is for this particular December until now, right? This was 1 year previous data. So I hope I have cleared the question, right? So 36,000 couples. Earlier we had a sociological barrier. People would say, "Mere genes, my genes should flow," right? And people had this, there was a social taboo. There was a taboo against adoption. But now when that is going slowly and steadily, we have more people coming for adoption. And then we have administrative barriers. Administrative barriers like non-availability of children for adoption. This could be a potential question. What are the issues here? So these are the issues, right? 28,000 prospective parents, but only 2,200 legally free children available for adoption, right? So what are when a person is found, when a person finds a small child who could be adopted, the first procedure here is they are brought to a district child welfare committee. Child welfare committee. This is a component of Juvenile Justice Act. So there is a juvenile justice board, which is just like a court, but for children we call it a board. Then there is a child welfare committee, and there is a juvenile justice police also. These are the three integral component structures, institutions under this act. So they are brought under this committee, and then the children's extended family are seen to be reunited. If they are not found, if they are found, well and good. If they are not found, then the child welfare committee calls them legally free children for adoption. Legally free children for adoption, because their near or dear ones, they have either refused adoption, or they have said that or they are not being found. And after they are being given the status of legally free for adoption, then they are put in child care institutions. Many child care institutions are not registered with CARA. If they're not registered with CARA, the children cannot be adopted from those institutions. So this is one part. Even if they are registered with those institutions, then the health checkup, and then there are multiple levels of check of the parents also. Parents, prospective parents, are they going to exploit the child? Where are they based? What is their culture? What is their economic standing? There are many issues, and because of this, there are administrative blockades for adoption. So this is why I felt it was important this could be discussed. This is the update for barring the other updates from the Gazette, right? Hi Tyasha, good evening. Moving ahead, see, these are important things. If you think that this is not mentioned in the Gazette, then and then you need not make notes, I would disagree with you. Make notes of those as well. Today in Gazette, what do we have? We have draft health bill, Kinzhal missile. What is it? Reasonable accommodations. 3 updates on the snapshot section. This day in history, dedicated to elimination of racial discrimination. Feature news on Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, right? Crop insurance scheme. Image of the day on Mr. Parker solar probe mission. Mr. Parker here. We'll see how it looks like. Terms and concepts. Methyl isocyanate, religiophobia, NEET UG age bracket removed, and BBIN motor vehicle agreement between 3 countries, not Bhutan. Editorials for one on UNSC mandate that you people answered on. The second one is on Atmanirbhar India and complete historical context of it. And the third is on net zero and India's path for net zero emissions. Eco-friendly school in Kerala is today's case study. Let's begin this discussion. Questions, most welcome. Okay, so the first update is of draft health bill. All right, now before discussing this, let me give you a context of the health bills. All right, a small thing here. What an irony, we want to adopt children, yet we are selective of who we want to adopt. Yet we look at the generosity or altruism, or for that matter the sake of our own needs to adopt a child, and then we choose a child amongst all the godlike creatures. Anyhow, moving ahead to the first update, that is on the health system in India. See, currently the problems in India that have come up because of COVID, they are being governed because of 2 acts, two legislations. One of the legislation is Disaster Management Act 2005, and the second one is the Epidemic Disease Act 1897. This is a 125-year-old act, and both the acts have to be they have to be used to be able to run provisions. Government had already thought that they would create an integrated act in which they'd be able to handle disasters, right? So this is how government has said that there'd be a new act. It would have 4-tier structure in which the health administration would be handled. There will be terms which will be given, definitions and meanings. There will be times when this act and the workforce will be enabled. So this act will be formulated, the draft will be put in public space, and after that they'll be able to devise the whole strategy. Right now, a quick summary is available which I want to share with you. The first is that there will be a 4-tier health structure: national level, state level, district and block level. National level, health minister is the chairperson. The state level, the health department and the minister concerned is the chairperson. District level, DM, and block level, the chief medical officer of that block would be the concerned person. So this is the 4-tier structure. and they will be having powers and authorities and functions to deal with public health emergencies, especially for these times. What kind of emergency? Biological hazard emergency, chemical warfare emergencies, natural calamities, wherever there are issues of public health to be handled, all of them have to be looked at from this particular act. So what are they? For example, biological toxin, natural disaster, chemical attack, nuclear attack, all of them will have to be looked at when we'll talk of public health emergencies. All of them will be under this particular act. Right now, the government runs various provisions. I'll discuss some of these provisions, because of which there is a lot of clumsiness in administration, right? So this is second part. Public health cadres will be formed, specialized public health cadres. So first, 4-tier system. The second one, public health emergencies. Which are the emergencies? The third one, public health cadre will be instituted. The fourth one, some other diseases like non-communicable diseases and emerging infections, all of them also will be part of this particular act, right? And then they will also update some scientific provisions regarding everything that is happening related to pandemic, diseases, epidemic, all of them, right? So this is one. This is where I want to quickly discuss some provisions of lockdown. What is the difference between lockdown or invoking section 144 of CRPC, or curfew for the matter? Are you people aware? Difference between lockdown, curfew and CRPC 144, invoking that. So you will be able to see how there are differences between each of them. Let's see. Now, when there is a lockdown at a particular place, there is no specific legal mandate in which police can ask or penalize a particular person. There is an instruction to stay at home. However, essential services and emergency services both are running. Please remember the two words, essential services and emergency services both. Essential, what is essential? For example, going to a kirana shop, right? Getting some milk, right? For example, essential services could be hospitals, banks, ATMs, grocery stores, milk, all of them are essential services. But emergency is a hospital service, right? So in this case, in case of lockdown, emergency and essential both services are running, right? Now police will not be fining people, but it will be asking them move inside. Otherwise, there's a lathi, and then there's a strict imposition. This is what is lockdown. Legal mandate for police is only when there is a repeated or habitual offender. This is what is lockdown. But in case of section 144 imposition at a particular place, under IPC and CRPC both, it happens under both. So under imposition of section 144, what happens is that there is a congregation, it cannot have for 5 or more than 5 people at one particular place, right? But more than section 144 is curfew, right? So in curfew, the emergency services and other services, they can be run, right? Emergency services can be run, but in case of curfew, the mandate is very strict to stay inside the homes. The mandate is really very strict, and so curfew can be called as section 144 plus staying indoors, right? Staying indoors. Here congregation can be there for lesser than 5 persons in section 144, right? But curfew is far more strict, right? Only emergency services are available, rest is not. So lockdown, then 144 and curfew. But curfew cannot be imposed for a lot of time. No, we are asking everybody to stay indoors. So this is time driven, right? Curfew, night curfew is an example. Morning you go out or go to office and then work. Evening time curfew begins, right? Everything will be open in the mornings, but in curfew nothing will be open. Only emergency services like hospital you can go to, right? So this is the update here. The government has started to ponder on National Public Health Bill. All right, this is the update here. So public health emergency system and response should be framed under this. Bioterrorism, disasters, disease notification, surveillance, all of them to be handled under this, right, integrated law. This is the update. The same thing that I mentioned has been mentioned here in the update as well. The second update is from Kamikaze missiles. Kamikaze missiles, what are these? Kamikaze missiles are those missiles which have been initiated by Russia, and they have declared that they are using these kind of missiles against Ukraine. They started using these missiles in the year 2018. So we will not only understand Kamikaze, we will also understand another system of missiles which are called as, I want to show you the quick images of both these missiles. So Kinzhal are, they are again supersonic missiles. So if you remember, we had discussed supersonic missiles. They have a speed more than 5 times the speed of sound, right? So around 6,000 kilometers per hour is their speed, right? 5 times supersonic. But these Kinzhal missiles are 10 times the speed of sound, move at a very, very quick pace from one place to another. Their range is 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers. They are air mountable. That means they can be fired from an aircraft, Sukhoi aircraft, not Indian Sukhoi 30s, but other different Sukhoi 31, and there are other versions they can launch. So Russia has released an image of how these missiles are launched. I'll quickly discuss this also, but have a look at this particular image before that, right? Right. So Russia has been deploying these missiles, and you see the speed at which the missile moves after it is, see, it quickly gathers a pace which is supersonic, 12,000 kilometers per hour. And this is how Russia uses these missiles, air-mounted missiles. MiG-31 is this fighter. This is Russian Ministry of Defense releasing this image, speaking about the pace of this missile, right? Seen? So this is the Kinzhal missiles. On the other hand, USA also has initiated something called as Kamikaze Drones, right? So Kamikaze, initially, these are the words that were used to demonstrate those Japanese warriors. Those Japanese warriors would fight for the king, and they would detonate themselves. They would detonate the whole planes, right? Rather than releasing the bombs from the planes, the whole plane itself, along with the warrior, along with the fighter pilot, they would sacrifice their lives and they would get killed, right? So this is one way. This is kamikaze, right? And now various countries have started adopting drones on the same formula. So humanless, unmanned air vehicles, and they have started to have drones which are kamikaze in nature. USA has gifted these drones to Ukraine so that they could utilize them. Now the primary function of these drones is that they can, they are smaller in size. So maybe 15 minutes of operation time. They can move around a few hundred kilometers, I think that was around 50 kilometers is what they could move. And they would be unmanned. The cost difference is very huge. There are two kind of drones. One is a drone which would deliver the weapon, and the other is a kamikaze drones. Kamikaze drones themselves would be the ones to attack and get destroyed. These drones would cost as less as $5,000 to $6,000. On the other hand, the drones which are bigger in size, which deliver weapons, they would cost as much as $150,000. 150,000 would amount to around 10 crore rupees for one drone, and then missiles being ejected out of it. On the other hand, these drones, kamikaze drones, would cost maybe a few lakh rupees, 2-3 lakh rupees, right? So this is the update, and this is why these drones are now being used. Why we are studying these weapons is because they are always in news. They are new weapons. They have been initiated, and so that is the reason that we are discussing each of them. All right. So this is the update here. Going back, yeah. What is the meaning of Kinzhal? Kamikaze, right? Self-destructive fighter. Kamikaze. Kinzhal means a dagger. So these daggers have been used. Hypersonic missile debuted by Russia. They are so fast. They are not detected by many other anti-aircraft systems, right? So this is the update from here, and they can have good evasive maneuvers at every stage of the flight. Also, they are very fast. See, these Russian missiles and S-400 also, they're not being detected by the THAAD defense systems or Patriot systems. It is because that these Patriot missiles are far slower than these 12,000 km per hour missiles. Patriot missiles moving at 1,000 km per hour. How can they intercept the missile moving at such a fast pace? This is the reason that Russian missiles are being commended over these American THAAD, Patriot, or Israel's Iron Dome systems. All right. The third update is on reasonable accommodation. This is again about what we had discussed previously, the hijab issue. Now, there is something called as reasonable accommodation, which has been, and this plea of reasonable accommodation has been rejected by the High Court. So let us understand quickly what are reasonable accommodations, right? Now, four criteria under which hijab ban was imposed by the High Court. Four criteria. Hijab is not an essential practice of Islam. We had discussed this part. Then prescribing uniform is institutions' right. Then there is no discrimination against Article 14, 15, 16, 14. And then there is no case against college persons. They were under obligation. They could have have had rules under which they could have enforced states capacity to have these kind of uniform code for the schools, right? So in that there was a plea. So finally the order came from the High Court. It has been appealed again. That is a different point. But then reasonable accommodations, this is what one of the pleas was about, that under reasonable accommodation allow us to wear hijabs, and they could be of same color, similar dimension. We will talk about it, right? This is what the plea said, but then the court said that reasonable accommodation will not stand valid. So let us understand, where does this reasonable accommodation word come from? This word comes from United Nations and Indian International Labour Organization's usage of the term reasonable accommodation, right, for vulnerable groups. So United Nations Convention on the Right of People with Disabilities, it states that reasonable accommodations can be given for people who are suffering with diseases. For example, HIV, AIDS, right? They are under any undue burden, right? In case they need some assistance, this can be utilized for those people, and some exemptions can be given to accommodate them, right? So this has been given for those people. Then ILO, it further expanded this and said this is not only for these people who are in distress, this is also for other category of people. So one category is HIV AIDS people, pregnant ladies, worker with disabilities, and fourth is people who have particular religion or belief. International Labour Organization said this. This is the one under which the people have pleaded that if it can be accommodated under reasonable accommodations, please do it. This is where High Court says that no, reasonable accommodations is not possible here. This is what the High Court has said, and this is the update. Now, one thing to understand here is what court said is that what is the we'll not get into it today, some other time. So this is the update here, right? Reasonable accommodations can be made for allowing minor variations to the uniform to accommodate personal religious belief. Equality not only implies preventing discrimination, but goes beyond in remitting discrimination against groups, right, suffering from systematic discrimination. This is the update from this particular article, right? Did Karnataka High Court hijab verdict overlook reasonable restrictions? The court rejected the argument in support of permitting Muslim girls wearing headscarf that was based on principle of reasonable accommodation, right? So this is what reasonable accommodation stand for, right? The court just mentioned that what is in accommodations if then there is no uniform. That's the point that it made, that in case people are wearing scarves, then there would be people with scarves and without scarf. There will be no uniformity, and the state has got the right to impose a uniformity in these particular cases, right? And since it is not a part of religious practices, then it can then it is not even covered under Article 25. So these are the arguments given by the state. This day in history dedicated to elimination of racial discrimination. Imagine, all right, this day has been initiated to respect the day, where quite a few people, 69 people died in the year 1960 in Africa, who were opposing apartheid. Imagine, even Indians were opposed of, right? Brown skinned people, black skinned people, they were discriminated against the whites, saying you cannot enter clubs, you cannot board the first class bogie of the trains. Everywhere you go, you will have to show the proof of your identity. Indians also in South Africa. So to oppose these kind of discriminatory practices, International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination is celebrated. All right, March 21. Feature news on Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. We will understand what are the concerns, issues, what are the various models of crop insurance in the country, in totality in the feature news for today. Quickly, Eugene Parker, the man on whose name the Solar Parker probe was launched, right? So he was the first person to have spoken about the solar winds, all right. First person to witness the launch of spacecraft bearing his name. Terms and concepts. The first term for today is methyl isocyanate. Methyl isocyanate is in news because this is the gas which leaked at Bhopal gas tragedy, and it caused the death of 4,000 plus people, which has been mentioned by the government. But reports of media says 10,000 people lost life in the year 1984 right here, right? Now, methyl isocyanate is one of the ingredients to create the fertilizers, and this tragedy happened in Bhopal. Now, there were various ways in which government tried to improve the situation at that particular place in Bhopal where this tragedy happened, right? So hazardous chemical was all spread here, and government did seek the help of Germany to be able to clear all the spaces around. All the chemicals were to be taken to Germany for disposal, but then burning of chemical would have maybe created more of issues. That is why Germany later withdrew from this. Now the government says that we will be disposing of all the chemical waste related to methyl isocyanate and everything around 150 to 200 kilometers away from Bhopal itself. So there are concerns over it. That is why it is in news. And after 37 years, now government is trying to dispose of the hazardous waste related to methyl isocyanate. All right. So this is the update. Now this place, this is tons, 337 tons of this waste. A few kilos would get burnt every day, and possibly it would take quite a few hundred days, around 150 days, for the whole hazardous waste to get burnt. And it might even lead to release of toxic gas in the air, right? So this is the update. Methyl isocyanate is a colorless, highly flammable liquid that evaporates quickly when exposed to air. All right, highly toxic, extremely hazardous to human health. And this is where a question of liability of disasters caused by human, that comes into one question, liability, and giving people certain rights who have been affected by disasters. All right, liability, who is liable, and rights of the people. This can again be asked for all other disasters including COVID. Religiophobia has been in news for quite a while, right? So in United Nations there has been a resolution which has been initiated by Pakistan and then other countries as well, right, to combat Islamophobia. Islam, religion, a particular religion, and phobia, fear. Philic means love and phobic means opposition or fear. So fearing Islam, and one should fight fearing Islam. Islam is a good religion, spreading the good things about Islam. This is what United Nations resolution speaks of. This is where India and other countries also spoke, saying that it is not just Islam but other religion also which must have been, or which must be looked at from the perspective of spreading awareness about them. A lot of people have raised concerns about Christianity, about Hinduism, about Sikhism, right? And there have been examples. For example, destruction of Bamyan Buddha in Afghanistan. Also, Buddhism spread, but then there was destruction of the many sculptures that were images that were present of Buddha in Afghanistan region. So this is a part of fear against Buddhism. Similarly, a lot of people fear Hinduism and Sikhism as well. So why not have a term which is more inclusive rather than Islamophobia, religiophobia? This is what other countries have proposed. All right. So spread good things about the religion so that people are not people do not downplay the importance of the good things about religion. All right. Yes, like suicide bombers, Ashish. Absolutely. So Nedra says curfew section 144 imposed along with essential services shut down. Lockdown 144 curfew martial law. Okay, all right. Thanks. See, national emergency, Amlan says, is even tougher. As far as fundamental rights curtailment is considered, national emergency is tougher. But then The movement is not restricted in national emergency. People can move around. There is no problem in that. Yes, yes. Mach is the speed of sound, and more than 5 Mach is hypersonic, right? Supersonic is more than 1 Mach. Around 1250 kilometer per hour is the speed of sound in air. All right. Age limit for NEET. We've discussed this previously. Age limit for NEET has been age barrier has been removed so that many students can become a part of this examination process. 15 lakh students appear for medical examination everywhere out of it in India, and out of which hardly 40,000 people are able to clear this examination. BBIN motor vehicle agreement. See, this is where I asked you the question. The agreement has been now signed between Bangladesh, India, and Nepal itself. No Bhutan. Bhutan is a country which is very sensitive to its culture, its heritage, natural heritage, and it does not want pollution to spread in its own country, right? We have discussed the case where Bhutan, it imposes taxes on people who are touring the country, and that tax is later utilized for creating services for the travelers and creating a better natural atmosphere in the state, in the country. That is the reason that Bhutan said, we would like to please spare us from this pact, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal motor vehicle agreement. Only 3 countries will participate and Bhutan will not participate. This was a step. BBIN motor vehicle agreement was a step towards economic unification of these countries. But Bhutan is right now out of it because of its reasons. All right, respected, right? But then it also impacts Bhutan's economy. It has chosen environment over economy right here, right? So this is a good case for you. This is an example of fractured agreement between the SAARC countries. So when we look at Sri Lanka, we will cover a feature news on India-Sri Lanka relations. Now their finance minister is here. See, Sri Lanka economy is the pain point for Sri Lanka, right? Bangladesh and India, the culture between both the countries are similar, right? Assam, Bangladesh, West Bengal, Tripura, right? All Bangla speaking areas, and the culture could be one important factor, or development, common development, right? Similarly, if we look at countries like Bhutan or places like Tibet, the religion is a factor of unification. Similarly, countries like Afghanistan, aid, support, development is a factor. Then if you look at a country like Pakistan, historic association is a factor, right? So you could look at these factors, or you could look at economic, historical, sociological, right, environmental, these factors as factors through which you could look at association of the SAARC countries, the pain points or the good points with examples. This is in reference to the question that I had asked. Okay. Okay. Let's get back to editorials. The first editorial is on fulfilling the primary mandate. See, United Nations Security Council's first mandate is to preserve international security and peace. International peace and security is the first mandate of United Nations Security Council. But slowly and steadily, it is not doing that. There have been so many attacks, and that too against United Nations Security Council resolution. There are places when it did not resolve, not that it was not taken up, but USA took up, the violence by itself. There are places like that. For example, Iraq war, right? Iraq. There are places where United Nations Security Council tried to oppose. Even then, the countries went ahead in the war, right? Syria is a good example. Even in case of Ukraine, it's a good example where United Nations Security Council did not want this kind of war to proceed, but yet because of veto, because of all these issues, you saw what has happened here. And United Nations Security Council right now, the editorial says, it is in the zone of handling the humanitarian crisis. So not serving the chief cause, but serving the subsidiary cause. This is what United Nations Security Council was not mandated for. It is changing its objectives. The editorial says that then what is the difference between United Nations Secretariat? The Secretariat has got bureaucracy, they have got officers, they are into handling diplomacy, they are into managing the affairs of humanitarian aid, right? United Nations Economic Social Council, Food Program, right? There are many other programs, Human Refugees Council, all of them can handle this. What is the difference between United Nations Security Council? It was mandated to have international security and peace in order. It is not being able to fulfill that purpose, right? So this is what the editorial says. It also goes on to say that when it does not fulfill these mandate, right, yet it says that it is conducting humanitarian aid or supplies in the name of assisting nations. For example, Ukraine, Syria, this is where assistance is being given in the name of humanitarian aid. But then who is doing it? These countries only? These countries have political affiliations, right? So selectively they are looking at places where their ends are meeting. For example, if Russia's ends are meeting in Syria, it will assist it. If US's ends are meeting in Ukraine, it will assist it. They're actually assisting in that way only, no? So this is what the editorial says, that assistance, humanitarian aid also has got a perspective, a bias, right? So what are the bias? The national prism, the national interest, humanity, impartiality, neutrality, independence, all of them are seen from the perspective of the national prism. This is not what is United Nations Security Council formed of. India has got 8 months more in the United Nations Security Council, and India could choose to, oppose an evolution of UNSC in this manner. This is what the editorial says. The second editorial is also an evolution of, this is a good editorial to read. I would like you to read, if you can read this editorial, a long one, but then speaks about the evolution of India and its relationship with various countries. It says that India has not been able to become an Atmanirbhar country, and because of this, India must be asked the question, why did it lag behind its contemporaries like China, like Vietnam, like South Korea? The editorial simply asks this question, that India should have worked far better, and this could have made India more self-reliant. Right now, India, the editorial clearly points at the fact that India has been sidelined along with China and Pakistan, those countries which have refrained from voting or abstained from voting against Russia. And India is a part of that small group of countries. Pakistan Prime Minister has also appreciated India, no? Saying that yes, India, you please purchase oil from Russia. So this is where the editorial says India should have become Atmanirbhar, more Atmanirbhar on its own capacities, right? De-Russification of the armed forces and genuine indigenization of India's defense technological and industrial base. See, Atmanirbhar India, right? Consider this Atmanirbharta not only in cases of the defense supplies, also in case of energy supplies, strategic supplies, technology base, mineral reserves. I have spoken multiple times about us giving the raw material and purchasing the finalized goods. Iron is a good example. Iron ore and then processed iron, metals or foils itself. Atmanirbharta. That is the answer to it. India, the poorest super emitter, right? This is a good editorial we picked up from yesterday's live mint, day before yesterday's live mint. So the crux of this editorial is something like this. The editorial says that India is one of the super emitters, the third largest emitter around the whole world if European Union is not considered. If it is considered, then fourth largest emitter, and yet its challenges are different from what is present in USA, what is present in China, what is present in European Union. The reason is India is a developing country. It has to provide for the development, economic needs of all the people, and it has also to fight climate change alongside. Along with that, India is a tropical country. That means more disasters, and this is resulting into a lot of havoc in the country. So you see so many factors at play at the same moment, and India is not able to handle it. Poor country, more number of disasters, energy needs, and over that climate change is happening. We have to counter all of them at the same time, right? When we see China in the same light, China's development path is not a particularly useful precedent for India. India is unique here. India has to follow a unique strategy here. It says both the countries have billion-plus population, absolutely true. But world's second number economy, that is China, is largest manufacturer of solar panels, lithium batteries, and electric vehicles. See, China is also by far the top installer of offshore wind turbines, hydrogen electrolyzers, nuclear power, high voltage cables. We are nowhere close. We have initiated our solar photovoltaic cell 100 gigawatt, right? policy. But yet China installs far more. We had studied this, far more than India, right? And we also import a lot of things from China with regard to solar panels, batteries, electrolyzers, wind turbines, all of them. India has yet to build the capacity to manufacture any of these green technologies at scale. So far, it has mastered deploying only solar panels and onshore wind turbines. Part of the problem is that India not only needs to grow more quickly than other super emitters, but it is also one of the most affected by increasing extreme weather. See, India can definitely fight diplomacy by saying, this is not a part of the editorial, I'm just mentioning to you what we have discussed previously. India's per capita emission is around 3 times less than the global average, and USA is emitting 3 times more than the global average. That means the gap is humongous. European countries are emitting around 2 to 3 times more than the global average, and China as well. But India can only fight diplomacy through this. Can we actually fight the economic problems, the hardships? Can we fight environmental problems or the extreme weather conditions? No, we cannot. Therefore, we need self-reliance. So this is how you should start relating to the previous editorials as well, right? Atmanirbhar world, right? And when we look at Security Council, international peace and security, right now we have not had water wars, international water wars, only few, right? Few countries in the Central Asia, right? Then we have India, China sometimes debating on it, and some other countries. But then this can also be raised at United Nations Security Council. Water could be the reason for Third World War. So could be supply chain disruptions around the whole world. These are security implications, international security implications. So start looking, relating all these 3 editorials. This will give the wider perspective to you. That's the reason that we present editorials from different newspapers as well. So this is the update. However, one quick part of the update here. This is the map of Ukraine, and quickly showing you only parts of this parts of the news. Now this is Ukraine, this is Crimean Peninsula, this is Sea of Azov, and this is the Russian part. There are places like Mariupol, which is being fought after, right? Fought for. So Russia bombarding this place, Russia bombarding Kherson here, Russia bombarding Kharkiv here, right? And then we have Kiev and other places also being bombarded, right, inside the Ukraine territory. But can you look, these are the 3 important places which are being bombarded more than the other places, and also Melitopol. Why? Ukraine has also mentioned very clearly that Sea of Azov was briefly under complete Russian control. So the point is, Russia might want to connect all these parts, and this is where, now as you people also mentioned on Thursday, that the proposal presented by Russia has not been accepted by Ukraine. So this is the reason probably Russia has been asking for these territories. So just showing you the places where there is more of action happening, right? This is the update, humanitarian crisis. Getting to today's case study. Before that, if you like this initiative, shower some love through likes, comments and shares. Today's case study is on eco-friendly school in Kerala. All right, so this school, Shavara Darshan CMI Public School, I would like to show you an image of this particular school. The teachers speaking to students in the school's agricultural fields. School has got agricultural fields. School has got bamboo plantation. School has children who are participating in ecological agricultural activities, right? Ecological agriculture activities. Not only that, they also participate in selling these products in the society. Imagine us doing this. I remember when I was in school, teachers would never participate and come to the fields apart from the PT teachers, right? If teacher came to the fields and told us about the chemicals in the food, probably I would have been more aware. And this is what Kerala students are being exposed to, being made more aware. In fact, plantation of bamboo leads to more release of oxygen, 30% more release of oxygen. They can also capture more carbon dioxide. These are the kind of initiatives the children in Kerala school have adopted. Model school in its own way. Environmentalism has been favored in the school, and this is a beautiful case from Kerala. Eco-friendly school in Kerala, right? 7 years ago, started with the environmental activism of one father, Paulos Kidan Gan, right? Bamboo garden as well. They have set up markets to be able to handle this. The school also runs on solar energy. So imagine the kind of awareness the children in this school would have, right? Now, this is where we come to the conclusion of the current affairs video discussion. We will quickly switch on to the video on Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. I would urge you to make quick notes so that you are able to remember this during times of revision, so that you are able to recollect this and immediately reproduce wherever required. Remember the ADEC principle if you're watching this video. I'd also want people who are viewing offline to become more interactive. Start writing the answers to the questions that I post in the comment section. This rigor will ensure that it rewards you and you, right? So thank you for participation. We will see you in the feature news video on Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. Thank you for watching. Questions, please post them below in the comment section.